Hey there, hi there, ho there, and welcome to Comic Show and Tell with Nat Gertler. That is I, Nat Gertler. I write comics, I publish comics, and once every decade or two I focus on the presidency and comics. I did it when I wrote about the appearances of the presidents in comic books for a 1992-ish issue of Wizard magazine. Yes, I am that old. And then in 2007 I wrote a comic book story about the presidential election for the final issue of my series, Licensable Bear. And while a couple candidates got mentioned, the only one shown was a guy named Senator Barack Obama. This came to be known as the first appearance of Barack Obama in a comic book. And when other people started doing Obama comics, and it became a collecting craze, well, Licensable Bear 4 switched from being the last issue of a failed title to being a hot collector's item, bringing hundreds of dollars on the back issue market. If you're interested in reading the story, the complete trade paperback collection is available at Amazon. But enough about me. Back to the presidency in the comics. As I record this, we're just days away from possibly electing a woman to the U.S. presidency for the first time ever. So it seems a good moment to show you the first winning U.S. presidential candidate in comics, at least the earliest one that I've found. Remember, I am a show and teller, not a historian. So it's quite possible there's something that I've missed. Our story starts, I suppose, in 1931, when the Lever Brothers Soap Company began buying out full-page advertisements in the Sunday Funnies to run their cartoon ads for their Rinso soap for clothes and their Lifebuoy soap for skin. In 1932, they were buying one page for those ads every month, but another page for a different pair of clothes soap and human soap, those bearing the Lux brand. Now, they had pulled a stunt where they had sent hundreds of Hollywood actresses free cases of soap, and in return, most of the actresses said that they used the soap. And suddenly they would promote themselves as the soap used by the most Hollywood actresses. So the facial soap ads were all about how someone's bad times in Hollywood were being saved by their using the soap, which helped keep you from getting cosmetic skin. And at the end, there was always some actress endorsement, including by some names we still recognize today. And the name of the soap? It was Lux Toilet Soap. Now, that's a name we do not hang on to today. I don't think many people are begging for toilet soap. Now, the ads for Lux Laundry Soap weren't so glamorous. They focus on some scenes of domestic strife that could be cured using Lux, instead of some bar soap that you had to rub on your clothes and risk ruining your delicate underthings with their harsh alkali contents. In 1934, they hit on the idea that their strips would have continuing characters and even continuing storylines, something that might pull the reader back time after time. The toilet soap gained the eventual title of Dixie in Hollywood, telling the tale of aspiring actress Dixie Darling, whose female friends were constantly having problems that were caused by the lack of Lux toilet soap. But it's the laundry soap we're really interested in. The star of the Lux strip was none other than Peggy Lux, an adventurer with a mission. She helped women around the world, sometimes in countries so exotic that we've never even heard of them, don't have them on our maps. But like people everywhere, they had the most understandable human problems. The alkali in soaps and how rubbing a cake of soap on your stockings can cause runs in them. The Peggy Lux strips were drawn by Virginia Huget, and I might be pronouncing that incorrectly. I do have reader's disease. I know how things are spelled but never pronounced. But Huget actually won an award from the Art Directors League of New York City for this strip. She had first landed on the Funnies page as the artist of the comic strip version of Anita Loos's Gentlemen Prefer Blondes back in 1926. She drew a number of comic serials and short-lived strips featuring flappers, the fashionable young women of the era. And by the way, I'm working on putting out the first book ever collection of the Gentlemen Prefer Blondes strip. It won't be available just when I release this video, but if you're watching in 2025 or later, I'll bet it's available now. In 1935, Peggy Lux adventures were showing up sometimes twice in a month. The title of the strip was frequently shown as Peggy Lux in Silmania. Silmania being a foreign land where her knowledge of the powers of Lux laundry soap helped her hang out with a princess, rescue a puppy, save several relationships, and prevent a suicide. Now, there are actually multiple suicide attempts in this year. Peggy rescues a kidnapped woman, builds holds a fashion show and gets herself kidnapped by gypsies, gets kidnapped by a sheikh and freed by his harem, gets kidnapped by pygmies, and generally had a time of it. By March of 1936, Peggy had been rescued from the pygmies and returned to Sylmania, where she got an urgent cablegram. American girls sick of stocking runs. Stop. Only you can help. Stop. Return and become our candidate for presidential platform Down with Runs Committee. Now, when committee tells you to do something, you do it. Peggy rushes home, her campaign now obviously underway when she arrives. She gets her message out to the press. The real issue is stocking runs. Now, away from the comics page, the 1936 presidential election was between incumbent Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Republican challenger Alf Landon. Now, if this is the first message that you think of when you hear the term President Alf, then you can probably guess who won that one. But those weren't the candidates that Peggy was running against. No, she was up against Alkali Ike and Mr. Cake Soak Rubbing. Clearly, laundry issues were in the forefront of the American mind in those halcyon days before World War II. Alkali Ike, the fiend, has Peggy kidnapped yet again. And let me remind you, there is no kink in this strip. Put your dirty minds away. A beautiful young woman helps Peggy escape, and as this woman's relationship was failing, Peggy took her by the hand and asked her back to her place to, make plans? Now, let me be positive clear on this. In case you get confused, Peggy Lux is not a lesbian. No matter what you think you see her doing, Peggy is not a lesbian. Even when she's staring at a woman's legs and hopes to get to know her, it's not lesbian. Even when she asks a tall, lonely blonde to her hotel room, no lesbian. Even when she's asking a lonely woman to invite her to spend the night in her hotel room, there is nothing lesbian going on. Even when she's comforting Marie, all she has in mind is making Peter come. After all, Peggy has a boyfriend she's committed to. That's right, she loves Dick. Anyway, Peggy Lux clearly appealed to women voters. But it's hard to win the election with just the women, so in order to win over the men, they held a parade, which apparently involved mainly sexy women flashing their runless stocking legs. Of course, men obviously can't be swayed by mere sex appeal. It's clearly only economic issues that win them over. Peggy spent the May strip working on her fashion, because picking the right summer fashions can indeed be an important part of the campaign. And for those of you who know women's comics, I can answer the next question. Yes, the Peggy Lux strip did include occasional paper dolls. In August, Peggy and her chauffeur helped a distressed woman flee from the cops, which is quite a thing for a presidential candidate to do. Women's lives matter, I suppose. And yet the next month, Peggy needs the help of the police when her political opponents collude to steal her soap. So clearly, she's not an all cops are bad type. And then in October 1936, the results are in. Peggy Lux got millions of votes in this three-way race. Her opponents concede defeat. Wow. Now, how does the first woman ever elected president of the United States react? Does she take the moment to address the nation? Does she prepare a slate of reforms that will bring prosperity while still preparing us for the war that is to come? No, she immediately abandons her post. She was a single-issue candidate, and the issue is getting the word out about the advantages of Lux. All those votes proved that she had been effective in spreading the word, and thus the U.S. doesn't need her to stay. President-elect Lux abandons office in the same panel that she wins it. Besides, there are places that she is needed. In Runphobia, there is a literal war between the sexes, brought on by stocking runs. Peggy flies off to see the drum majorettes who preside over the female forces. America has been left behind. The Peggy Lux comic strip didn't even last a year after that, and who can blame them? Peggy had been proven not to be not a leader for America, but a worldwide do-gooder. Her final new strip appeared in July 1937, when Peggy set up her own brother with a woman who needed to be taught how not to be odorous, and put her on the road to becoming Mrs. Bob Lux. If you find the topic of comics made for advertising interesting, why, I published several collections of them. Dazzling Diamond Lil is advertising cartoons for jewelry stores done by Bill Wogan, the creator of Katie Keene. Wife Gets Smart, Makes Husband Happy collects comic strips from supermarket ads that really tell the story of the home front during World War II. And my best-selling one, Cherry Sunday, is just a fun adventure strip about a beautiful red-headed gal and the two men who want her. Anyway, as I said, I'm releasing this before the election. If you see this, be sure to get out and vote, and not for Alkali Ike. And if you want another way to let your opinion be known, why, click the like button, click subscribe while you're at it, and until next time, go read some comics.